Welcome to Fat Man. I'm Batman. I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Marc Bernardin.
Our founder. We're back, folks, and we're here to talk about Ghostbusters.
The Ghostbusters. That's it.
Who are you gonna call? Yeah, boy, that's fucking what Ghostbusters did you see? Yes.
Smoking that Ray Parker Jr., son.
The Ghostbusters movie is out, folks. We're about to come out any second now. And Marc and I saw it.
We did.
So we can talk about it today.
Yes, we have feelings. They're not deep-seated feelings. They're not the feelings shared by too many people on the internet.
It's been a weird year for the Ghostbusters gang, as we've seen. They turned it into a big brouhaha, men versus women, and social media.
Feminists are stealing our heroes.
A lot of this going on. But I saw an interview with Ivan Reitman where he said, I honestly don't think it's as much like, ew, it's women. I've read a lot of it, the hate online he was talking about. And he's like, it's not so much that, ew, it's women. It's just this movie, for whatever reason, is special to its core audience. And I think I'm not paraphrasing him, it would be an ew anybody that wasn't the original crew. So his point was like, yeah, there's hate, but it's not as, ew, we fucking hate girls as much as, the media maybe not painted it with that brush, but they were like, let's just show the most crazy fucking, misogynistic texts and tweets rather, and believe me, there's a fuck ton of it out there.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it was always pure like, ew, girls. Like, that's just...
Some of it was like, don't mess with the thing I love.
Yes.
Which in one, kind of fair, I suppose.
For some, yeah.
Except for the fact that like Ghostbusters 2 messed with a thing you love and is not a good movie.
And nobody brings that one up when they're like, I fucking love Ghostbusters. Like, what about Ghostbusters 2?
Yeah,
They're like, there's a sequel?
Those same guys made another movie that was horrible. So maybe it's okay.
It can move on. It can move into other hands. Look, everything gets remade sooner or later. You know what I'm saying? And when I was a kid and they made King Kong, let him climb the trade towers and shit, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And my father's like, I saw this when I was a little boy. And there was the black and white version and stuff.
Yeah, like
when
Clash of the Titans, one of my favorite movies is the shitty Clash of the Titans, which I love to death.
Yes.
And then they remade it into a shittier Clash of the Titans, which I cannot stand. But it's like, you know what? Here's the thing. I still have the old one. That's the awesome secret about this, is that I think Raymond Chandler used to have a quote. Somebody interviewed him about like they're making another movie of one of your books. They're ruining your books in the movie. He's like, no, they're not. Like, the book is fine. It's right there on the shelf. Like, I still have it. Like, and nobody can molest that thing. And
that's a man with perspective.
Yeah. And like Alan Moore would invoke that when talking about like Watchmen or talking about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's like, no, the book is cool. It's still right there. Like, I'll crack it open every year and read From Hell because I like to.
Smart guys.
Also a wizard, but
he is a bit of a wizard, isn't he? The notion of Ghostbusters being remade at all, I think, is what made there's a good portion of people out there that were just pissed about that, because there was never clear right away, is this a sequel? Is this tied into the universe somehow? And then once it became clear that it was a reboot, then people were like, what? And, for my money, as a fan, and I'm not like, I have no horse in this game other than I just like people taking me on a flight of fancy. I think the Ghostbusters concept fucking can go a lot of places and stuff, and I would like to watch more of them, and so I'm all for them and stuff, but I'm not like, and here, I'll tell you this, man, my Ghostbusters memory, seeing it in the theater, first day, it's my dog, Louie, shut up, man, we're talking about Ghostbusters.
Don't be afraid of no ghosts.
Now Shecky's involved. She's like, Ghostbusters, let me up, I've got thoughts. When I first saw Ghostbusters in 1984, two things happened that day. One, I saw Ghostbusters. Two, right after that, I went to Bennigan's. For the first time ever, I had a mozzarella cheese stick. They just introduced them that day. So
have you tried the new cheese sticks, sir?
It was the first time. I mean, I'm sure they did it elsewhere in the world. But this is the first time fucking Bennigan's was like,
what is this?
I was so like, what is this?
Fried penis thing.
It looks like chicken, but chews like cheese. So, you know, in a world of things that, like, that's a big part of my childhood, man. You know, the cheese was bigger, to be honest with you. I loved Ghostbusters, don't get me wrong, because Dr. Peter Venkman, and honestly, if there's anybody that should be upset by a Ghostbusters remake, it should be me. Now I just thought about it. I was a massive Ghostbusters fan. Fucking massive. I based every fucking character that I've written who's not the straight man in the movies on Bill Murray, particularly as Peter Venkman, also as, you know, Tripper and Stripes Tripper and Meatballs and Winger and Stripes and stuff. And Bill Murray just in general. But Peter Venkman, man, was like Randall and Brody. Like, I don't get to those characters without that performance specifically. So, and that movie, like, fired on all cylinders, captured my imagination, had special effects, the ghosts and shit, and was just hysterical. So if anybody out there, like, should have been like, no, not my childhood, because it was also tied to mozzarella cheese sticks as well, and you'll ruin that, could have been me, and I didn't. I mean, maybe it's just like I'm old enough to know, like, you know, they remake all these things.
Yeah, it's fun. There's going to be a shitty Lethal Weapon TV show next season.
Is there?
Yeah. Yeah, with Damon Wayans Sr. playing the Murtaugh role.
Really?
Yeah.
And people aren't
not up in arms over that.
That's weird.
Like, what?
So that's all a long way of saying, like, I'm sure I speak for Marc a little bit, we didn't really give a shit when they were like, we're fucking remaking it and we're putting in ladies. But I personally, as a Ghostbusters fan, I would have liked it more, the movie, and I'm not saying it's ruined because they didn't do this, but as a fan of fan service and like tying movie universes together, I've got two of them myself, I would have been like, you know, that's Dr. Peter Venkman's daughter.
Right.
At least one of them tied into the world, man, a little bit. But that would have made, you know, doesn't change
like
how the movie's going to be perceived by like 90% of the population.
Right, like it's a little bit of fan service, and there's nothing wrong with a little bit of fan service.
Especially in this instance.
And this movie has a little bit of fan service. It's got like the bust of Harold Ramis. It's got
I love that.
The entire cast in it, the surviving cast members in it. But, I mean, for me, the movie was funny, but could have been funnier. It was scary, could have been scarier.
I would agree with that.
You know, it was, like when you're making a comedy, no amount of money you throw at a comedy makes it funnier. And if at its core this is a comedy, then it could have been a lot funnier. You can throw money and make a thing scarier, except for the fact that most of the most scary movies are super fucking cheap.
Yeah.
Because effects don't make something scary. Like, it's all about technique and ingenuity and understanding suspense.
The cat jumps out and shit. That doesn't cost much money at all.
So it feels like what they spent their money on was a lot of CG in the last third of the movie that doesn't make it funny or scary, and then just makes it big. And this is not a movie that, despite the fact that the first one ends on the top of a building with a giant Stay-Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah, be careful where you go. This one, you're like, this is a movie that doesn't deserve.
That need to be big, except that it starts as big. But like, scale is not the solution to the problems this movie has.
No.
The actresses are all good. Like, and when they're just, like we were talking about, they're just hanging around and being funny.
There are moments in the movie we talked right before we went, the things that I laughed out loud at the hardest were things that were not remotely Ghostbusters related. You know, I mean, it's in the movie of Ghostbusters, so it's all Ghostbusters related, but not like plot oriented or there's a ghost or any of that. It was just some shit they would have said if they put those four people in any movie.
Right.
Like the ad-libbed kind of moments and stuff. Kate McKinnon had most of it. Kate McKinnon owned the movie for me. I'm obviously a big fan of her work. But her and fucking Thor, Chris Hemsworth,
it's going for it.
What a discovery. Fuck Jason Mewes, fucking Thor and Silent Bob. That guy is dynamite. He's funny as fuck. They gotta let him do his accent.
I know.
Rock his fucking accent. I saw him in the trailers. I was like, all right, it's just gonna be like fucking a lot of himbo comedy. And it was.
Yeah.
But artfully done. He was fucking funny as shit.
And just really game.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell he had never gotten to do this before and was more than happy to make himself look like an asshole.
Yeah.
And he goes for it.
It was fun there. He was definitely a fun part of the movie. I love Kristen Wiig, but and there's no but. She's great in the movie, but they didn't give her a fuck ton to do.
No.
Some of the shit she did do, I really did like though. They gave her this weird one note to play of like, I want to fuck him all the time. Like every scene she saw fucking Hemsworth. Yeah, she was like, make me Thor.
See, I was kind of half hoping that Hemsworth would get possessed and fuck somebody. It would be like the Donna Mills Aykroyd thing where she's like, oh, I'm going to fuck that guy. He's possessed now and wants to fuck me. I wanted Leslie Jones to be riding Chris Hemsworth like a stallion.
This one more draft, and they could have opened at $100 million over the weekend. Yeah, that would have been fucking good.
Slapping his ass.
I mean, again, it's a funny movie. Obviously, I feel you could take your kids to it. It's
Yeah,
not fucking
totally.
remotely alienating or scary for children and stuff.
No.
You know, but if it had been called anything else, none of this fucking backlash or outcry would have ever happened and stuff. But the fact is, when you put the word Ghostbusters on the movie, whether you're connected to the original or not, those are big shoes to fill.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, it's only about, did they make a funny movie? They did make a funny movie. Could it have been like as funny as The Heat or Spy, two Paul Feig movies?
Feig.
Feig. Is it Kevin Feige and Paul Feig?
I think it's Feig.
Both Feig?
Both Feig. Two Feigs.
Two Feigs. Pack of Feigs.
Two Feigs, a girl in a pizza place.
Those two, that dude has made hysterically funny movies with some of the same talent, including Bridesmaids.
Yes.
So it just felt like, a lot was cut.
It felt like
choppy.
there's a decent amount on the floor, and there kind of always is in a comedy because you're overshooting, because you're letting
Especially
them
with a
ramble.
lot of ad-libbing, too.
But here's the thing about Spy and The Heat. You're subverting what those movies are about. Those movies are traditionally male films, like the buddy cop movie, the gentleman spy movie.
And there have been many of them
And there
in
have
the
been
genre.
tons of them, like decades worth of each of those kinds of films. So when you put a woman in the lead of those movies, or women in the lead of those movies, it automatically has this foundation of other and different and humor. There is not a vast catalog of dude Ghostbuster movies to be lampooning.
I believe there's two.
There's two. One of them we don't even discuss anymore. So you're not...
Do you really hate it that much?
It's just not... I hate it because it's
What
not
I
the first
remember
one.
is, your love is lifting me high.
Yeah.
The Statue of Liberty walking through New York. And they're all in the crown, right?
Uh-huh. Like there's moments of that movie that are kind of great, but then the movie as a whole is just the movie as a whole. But...
You know what I really dislike about that movie? Is that Dana had a baby with somebody else.
that's betrayal of the grandest level.
Yeah, there was no such thing as fan service in the late 80s, man. They were just like,
Nope.
Nah, in real life, that wouldn't have happened.
Yes. Does that girl really fuck that dude a lot? No. Twice. Maybe. Definitely not getting married, definitely not having kids.
I remember being disappointed by that, being like, no. I was not as disappointed as like when fucking Alien 3 begins and like the best part of the movie and the last one is dead. She died in her sleep.
Yeah.
Like, what? Fucking Newt. Do you know Newt is going to be at Comic-Con?
All of them are going to be at Comic-Con.
Dude, we've seen the rest of them. Newt's been missing in action since she died in space.
And also, Paul Reiser's going to be there.
Yeah, but he had his own fucking show.
He did, but it was 40 years ago.
I ain't against Reiser, but I'm all pro Carrie Henn, man. Like this, she's been gone.
I know.
I'm half expecting them to bring out a robot and be like, her brain's been placed into this
Are
robot.
you going to get to sit down and talk with them at the con?
I fucking hope so. I just want to talk to her and be like, where'd
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go?
James Cameron, I don't care what you might have to say.
Move aside, Avatar.
Thank you, Sigourney Weaver, whatever the hell your name is.
Her, I would definitely be like, where'd you go, man? Where have you been? Like, she was amazing in that movie.
Yes.
It's one of the greatest fucking childhood performances of all time. Maybe she just dropped the mic. She's like,
It's like, what else am I going to do?
yeah, it's never going to be better than that. She's like, I didn't really plan to be a child actress. I got this. I fucking 100% and then just walked
Boom.
away.
I'm going to be a school teacher or whatever she does.
That's what I'm honestly, man, like fucking, they didn't even need to do the Aliens 30th anniversary. They just could have been like Newt alive. And that flew would have packed the fucking place. Anyway, how did we get to that?
I don't even remember.
Ghostbusters.
Subversing. Yeah.
Like funny stuff in the movie that came from people that weren't our heroes.
Yeah.
Like the guy who was like, doing the fucking multiple, like, he's like, oh, blew away. He's like, oh no, I got it. And shit, like, he was genius, man. But that bit could have played in any movie. It's not very Ghostbusters specific.
Yeah, like the thing about the first Ghostbusters, the OG Ghostbusters, is that if you take away all of the jokes, it's still a legit fucking horror movie. It still works. I took my 10-year-old kid to it. He's frightened out of his mind because he didn't get the jokes.
Like he is afraid of ghosts.
Yes, he doesn't like the ghosts.
I'm not afraid of no ghosts.
No,
He is.
because without the funny to leaven that, it's actually a legit thriller.
Wow.
This movie doesn't actually function that way. Like it doesn't have that sort of undercurrent of it's actually scary. It's never actually scary, except the first, like the opening sequence in that mansion, which is just, there's some jump scares, but it's like you see what they're doing. It doesn't get under your skin in any way, the way like Dana's apartment sort of rebelling against her gets under your skin. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, and you know, it was also felt like a little bit was missing, and not like this ain't a detriment to the film at all, but like when they made Ghostbusters, you know, the dogs, you could feel them.
Yeah.
Rubber masks.
Stop motion.
Yeah,
half
they
the
were,
time.
and when they were there in person, she could touch them, and it was a big animatronic and shit. Everything in this movie feels.
And by the third act,
CG.
it is just a parade of digital effects.
Like literally, literally a parade.
And you just lose some. And I love digital effects. I love when they're done well. I love when they're deployed with some skill and some deftness. When it's just like we're just slathering effects on.
It feels like the ending of Batman v Superman, where it's like, oh, this is just 3 people on a green screen, and all this shit got added later on. Some of the shit looks cool. They do fucking like Stay Puft, Marshmallow Man makes an appearance as well. That's I think where they'll lose a bunch of the, you know, people who are like not like you're bugging my childhood, but like, oh, I love Ghostbusters. When they find out that, you know, the spoilers, that there's a different giant thing to kill at the end of this movie that's not Stay Puft.
Right.
There'll be a lot of like, what?
How dare you?
A lot of dissension. But here's the one thing I found weird about the finale. Felt like they were on the ground floor the whole time.
Yeah.
Like Ghostbusters at the end, they went up to, just being on the top of a building has something, you know, the top of the city, I don't know, whatever the fuck. Pyramid was open and all that shit. But this, everything felt like very
and instead of going up, they have to go down, is the way this movie works.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. See? Fucking, you see everything. You're such a good writer. Leslie Jones funny in the movie. Melissa McCarthy's funny. They're all they're all funny in the movie.
I mean, Kate McKinnon steals whenever scene she's in.
Yes, she is genius in the movie.
She's just going for it.
And it's not even like, you know, she saw people slacking off, so she's just over. She's got the part. Like, and you know, on one level, it's kind of Egon-ish, but she's, I mean, you can't even. She doesn't really have a counterpart in Ghostbusters. They really don't do that. It's not like. Melissa McCarthy is I mean, if maybe Melissa McCarthy is kind of like Ray.
It's more like Leslie Jones is the black person who does not have any science background. And so it's just I'm the streetwise New Yorker looking for a job.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Leslie Jones couldn't have also been a scientist? She had to be the MTA worker who just reads books?
I don't know about this science stuff. It's literally a line. But I know the streets. I believe is the follow-up line.
Yeah.
So... Yeah.
And that's the one. It's like you could have made Kate McKinnon the not scientist, just crazy fucking brilliant.
Yeah, so like she's the street kid.
Yeah, who's just I've been building stuff on the street since I was 12. You're gonna give me a nuclear reactor to build a gun out of? This is amazing!
I would have preferred, and I know I read that they were gonna do this, like the Melissa McCarthy character was gonna be more like Leslie Jones, just very boisterous and loud, the non-scientist of the group, I believe.
Right.
And then, you know, Paul, the director, was like, oh, I've seen her do that. Hey, let's have her do this instead. And then Leslie Jones winds up being that character. So maybe in the first draft it would have been like Melissa McCarthy was the non-scientist. But I would have preferred Leslie McCarthy. I would have preferred Melissa McCarthy to be. There's nothing fucking funnier in this world to me than when Melissa McCarthy is loud and boisterous and fucking hurling obscenities.
Yes.
Even on Saturday Night Live, they did this one sketch where she was like, I am Junior Congresswoman Sheila Kenny, or something like that, where it was a play on that one incident where on New York 1, there was a guy interviewing a politician, and then he left, and he was like, well, as you heard, blah, blah, blah. And then the dude smoked back into the frame. He was like, hey, man, how about I throw you down these stairs? Like, he threatened the fucking dude on camera. So they did a sketch about it on SNL where, you know, there was Melissa McCarthy was playing like this junior congresswoman, Sheila Kelly, and guys interviewing her. And she's like, I don't agree with that at all. Not to my knowledge. This interview is over, and she storms out. And then the guy standing there goes, that was junior congresswoman Sheila Kelly, and apparently she's not admitting to. And then she comes back in and she's like, hey, bro, hey, how about I push you out a fucking window? Well, she don't care. She's like, how about I push you out a window? And she goes, I'll push you down the stairs like a little baby in a carriage, and Andy Garcia won't be there to save you, like in The Untouchables. Like she gets real in his fucking face. And then she sees the camera and like, fucking threatens the camera. And then they're like, luckily somebody nearby was also shooting at the camera. And then all of a sudden she sees that camera and goes after her. And it's a series of her fucking going after the cameras. Funny fucking shit. But that's just my preference for her. I like when she does that thing. But I could understand a performer wanting to be like, oh, let me do something else. And she's got funny stuff in the movie. So it's not like, oh man, what a mistake that was.
For sure. It's
not like, remember Neighbors?
Yes.
When John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd switched parts, the old Neighbors, not the Seth Rogen Neighbors. That it was Belushi was supposed to be the obnoxious fucking neighbor, and Aykroyd was a straight-laced guy. And then right before they went, they were like, "Fuck it, we've done that. Let's switch it." And I always wanted to see the other movie. The other movie probably would have been fantastic.
The thing that I kind of want. Yeah. And the thing that you guys do really well.
Ghostbusters. The new Ghostbusters. Here, this is what I shared on Hollywood Babylon. I'll share it here. Right before my movie began, there were the theater where I was, little girls dressed up in Ghostbuster outfits dancing in the aisles. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. Just like when I was a kid and I saw Ghostbusters, I wasn't dancing in the aisle because people would be like, "Fat boy, sit down." But I left there going like imitating the movie, happy as shit that I saw. Played fucking with my mozzarella sticks like I was Slimer and shit. So I saw that and I was like, that's adorable. If you could see it, you could be it. And those little girls are seeing it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I could be a Ghostbuster too. So that was really, really sweet. But the thing I talked about on the podcast as well, I'm baffled by, is the poster tagline is "Answer the Call," and I'm like, what's that mean? Yeah. Who's calling? Call the ghosts?
It's hoping you remember the who you're gonna call.
But then why not just go who you're gonna call? Like, why step away from that? Why not just answer the call means nothing.
Nope.
Nothing. Nobody calls anybody in this movie. Nothing happens like that.
So phones.
There's no supernatural call from the other side.
Nope.
There's no the mayor going, you've got to save the city. This is my call. That tagline makes no sense whatsoever.
And they're also not even reluctant heroes. So they don't have to heed the call to adventure. Yes. They're down.
It's just literally who you're going to call is what it should have been. And I guess somebody was like, you got to earn your paycheck this week. They're like, answer the call? Like,
sure.
Yeah, good enough. Slap it up there.
I don't know. Call in the family?
Baffling. All right, so worth going to see. Look, if you watch this show, obviously you got your finger on the pulse of pop culture. You got to consume all this stuff. You can't be part of the discussion if you haven't seen it. Don't be one of those people that's like, fuck this movie.
Yes.
And they're like, do you see it? And they're like, no, but fuck it anyway.
You can hate it, but you have to see it before you hate it.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And you don't have to see it this week.
No, see, we're never going to see it. But don't talk shit about a thing you know nothing about.
It sounded very aggro and threatening.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're just talking shit about stuff you don't know. What do you know? What do you know? You don't know shit
about shit you don't know.
You don't know dick, Peckerwood.
Things are getting very heated. Good Lord, we've lost Mark. There it is, folks. The Ghostbusters 2016, I believe, is what they're calling it now.
Pretty much.
Go see it in a theater near you. Answer the call.
And then let us know who answers.
Yeah, fucking whatever that means. There it is, man. For Fat Man on Batman, I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Marc Bernardin.
Tune in next week, same fat time, same fat channel, smodcast.com in your ears.
Or youtube.com/Kevin Smith for your eyes.
Look at that. We just added that.
We did a thing.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. Thanks for watching. Do me a favor, click that thing below that says subscribe. Every time you click that, you save a baby kitten from murder.